What's up? Welcome to the Imposter Syndrome Club. There is no fucking chill welcome today because I'm fucking excited.
Mania levels are running high. Wow.
I sent Alice a message this morning before she came over to record this saying, my ideas engine is running hot this morning, and she's like, oh God, what does it mean?
No, I said I'm both terrified and aroused, which is my natural state.
It's just your natural state, and also exactly what I was going for. Now, people know who we are. I'm Jessamy G. I'm joined by Alice Eady. We are the Imposter Syndrome Club, and there's a very good reason why we are so fucking excited today.
There's been so much work happening in the background, and it's fucking cool, and we're going to tell you all about it right now.
Yeah, we are. So, a couple of things. Number one, on the 17th of March at Federation Square at the Edge venue, the Creative Business Summit run by Finders Keepers Market is happening. And we are super fucking excited to announce that we are their official podcast partner.
What? How legit is that? Also, this is in Melbourne, just as an aside.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
for any non-Melburnians. Yeah.
So it's going to be an awesome day all about creative business. Some of the speakers they've got there are absolutely incredible, including friend of the pod, Dr. Marion Piper, who is amazing. So we are going to be there. We're going to do a few interviews. We've got one today and one next week sometime with some of the speakers to give you a little taster of some of the awesome people that will be there pre-conference. We're also going to be speaking to a bunch of the speakers there on the day. We've got some really, really fun ideas of ways to connect with the community there too. We'll be doing some live stuff. We've got some secret plans of really fun activities.
These are ideas that Jessamy had before I even woke up this morning.
You know what's bad about that though is that now I've peaked. So I'm riding high now at 11 a.m. But by 1 p.m. I'll be like, I'm done.
It's going to be so fucking cool. And what I'm so excited about with the speakers is it's a conference for creative entrepreneurs who work in ethical businesses. That's the broad kind of overview. But within that, they've got such a interesting, diverse, fascinating mix of humans doing cool stuff. Like I feel so often the word creative is alienating to people that feel like, well, I don't paint all day. Yeah. So this is not for me. This is everyone from like, there are winemakers, there are people in fashion, there are people in media, magazines, actual sort of visual artists. Like there's just a bunch of cool, interesting humans who make shit in the world.
Yeah, very much our people.
So cool.
I think one of the taglines on the website is about doing your own kind of business or doing your kind of business, which I thought was really lovely.
Yeah.
So that's that. More to come. So yeah, keep an eye out on our socials at Imposter Pod is probably the best way to keep an eye on that, what we're going to be doing live. And if you're going to the summit, the ways in which you can connect with us both pre-summit and during summit.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're in Melbourne, come hang out. It's going to be super fun. And I think it's the kind of place where it like self-selects for people that are makers and doers and who are curious about each other's practices. And it's just going to be a really fun day.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Bulletin number 2.
All right.
Quick sidebar. I was thinking about this. So when you were in primary school, or I guess high school, but for my memory is tying it to primary school, when you'd have like a school assembly, we had them once a week, and you do the announcements at the start.
This has strong assembly energy. Also, the grade 2s are going to be doing a performance on the hockey field.
And there was someone who would do the sports report, like Wattle Park Primary played whatever, Deep Dean Primary, we won 2-3 in rounders.
The under 11s won 6-0. Well, I just fucking phased that entire thing. I'm like, absolutely don't give a fuck.
I think also like watching us both struggle to come up with like how sports are scored.
10 points for sporting well. I don't. Did you get a try?
Wattle Park won a sport.
Was your school really called Wattle Park?
Yeah.
Oh
Wattle
my
Park
God.
Primary.
Cute.
It was a lovely school,
It was
actually.
so Aussie, little Wattle Park.
Wattle Park. Well, it was next to a park that's called Wattle Park.
This was like my friend Elnie, who lived on Hill Street. And after knowing her for like 4 years, I was like, isn't it crazy the way your road is called Hill Street and it's also on a hill? Like, lol, what are the odds? And she just looked at me, and in that moment, I was like, oh no, oh no.
Oh, Alice.
I was like, fucking imagine how awkward that would have been if it was just flat, right? It's just like, fucking get out, go.
She was well within her rights to kick you out of
that thing where you know that feeling where like someone says something and then realizes in real time and then tries to pass it off as a joke, and everyone's like, nah, mate, nah.
It's when you're trying to catch the words as they come out your mouth and put them back in. Stuff them back in there.
I was just kidding, you guys, obviously.
I had a friend who worked at Target for like 5 years, and for some reason it did not click in her head that the logo was a Target. She's like, I don't know, it's just like 2 red circles. And I was like, dude, and I was there when she had that moment of realization and exactly that, like as it was coming out of her mouth, being like, I've made a terrible mistake.
Can I just say that I love following the assembly imagery? This would be like you're in that assembly and midway through announcing the netball results, that kid just gets fucking. And I have a friend who works at the whole school's just sitting there like, make it stop. Like, what the fuck is this?
Just tell us how many points you got in sports.
I know, we
ball.
haven't even done our second announcement.
I know. Do you want to do it?
Oh, I'm so excited. No, you do it.
Okay. Well, our second very exciting announcement is that we are going to be doing a motherfucking live show.
Guys, it's going to be live. It's going to be amazing. Come.
Yay. So it's going to be in celebration of our 50th episode. It won't be on our actual 50th episode because like a fucking dickhead, I'm going to be off running a marathon on the Great Ocean Road. So I might be dead by then, who knows? But if I survive, it'll be the 26th of May, Friday the 26th of May at Ringo Bar in Brunswick, which is just the coolest, most beautiful little venue. They only opened, I think, at the start of last year. So it's a record store / bar. The people who run it have just been so kind and beautiful. And I won't give away too much right now, but we've got some really, really, really exciting ideas. It is a small venue, so tickets will be very limited. There will be a small fee, but everything, all the fees will be donated to a charity. So more details on that TBC.
Yeah.
But we're going to, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, if anyone's got any suggestions for local charities that they think would be of interest or be something that we could potentially support, like hit us up, let us know. We'd be keen to check that out.
Yeah, totally. So we're going to have some of our favorite previous guests, some more little surprises, and it's just going to be a real good time. And so excited to meet some of you guys who we've maybe interacted with online or not. Even if we haven't interacted with you at all, we would love to meet you and put some faces to our listeners. So again, that's not till the end of May, but May 26th, mark it in your diary. We will put the tickets up, with a fairly long tail. So anyway, we'll let you know, but it's going to be awesome and I'm so excited.
I know. I'm realizing I'm riding the mania levels quite high today.
Oh, did you hear my intro?
I feel like I have 2 settings, and the one today's setting is I'm like, oh my God, you guys are going to be amazing. You should come. It'll be so fun. The other part of me is like, yeah, or whatever. Or like don't.
Care. I don't have that setting.
I know. That's why this works. That's literally why this podcast even exists.
That's not a surprise to you? Oh, gosh. Okay, well, that's it. Announcements complete.
So cool.
Yeah, very, very exciting. What else?
Oh, mate, need a nap.
Now that's done. I know. It's too much energy too early.
I was the best.
This is like a mini version of my day where I've peaked in the first 5 minutes. And now I'm fucked
it's
for the
going to
rest
be
of
bedtime by 2. I'm still waking up. This is like me coming into the world.
I'm so sorry.
Do you know what? we've been doing, there's no segue. I'm just going to start talking about something else now. We've been, so the first part, more exciting news. So I am moving in with Tom, my partner. It's so fucking awesome and exciting. And yeah, so I'm moving in with him at the end of the month. And obviously with any big life change, there's layers to that. Yeah. And the predominant one is one of love and excitement. And I just can't wait. Like, he's just the most fun fucking human. So I can't wait for that. But then at the same time, it means leaving my house share, which is truly like being the happiest home ever, like in my life. I love it. I love it so much. And knowing it's one of those weird, like a house share is such a weird contract because it's always temporary. Like it's like a contract that is underwritten by an understanding, a mutual understanding that we will all leave and that success is not the three of us living together for the rest of our lives, right? But it's still such a strange thing to get to that moment. And we've been posting the advert for the replacement housemates, and it is great. Like I've been so excited to talk to you about this.
Oh, wow. Tell me everything.
So many layers to this. Okay, so first off, just for a sense of what the Melbourne like house share market is like currently, I posted the ad at around midday on Wednesday on just Fairy Floss, so Facebook, not even going into any of there's like specialized apps like Housemates and Flatmate Finders and stuff. So literally just on Fairy Floss for a first pass to see like, are there any bites? Bear in mind, when we did this a year ago to replace a previous housemate, when we found Phoebe, who's the best, we had, I think, 6 responses and 4 interviews. It was a stressful time, and Phoebe was the 4th interview, and we were like, fuck yeah, thank God, cool, done.
Okay.
So this time around, a year later, posting that ad that was midday. By the time I was home in the evening, sitting around the kitchen table with the girls, we'd had over 50 responses. 50 responses. Fuck. Which we then went through. We set up meetings with 5 of them. So that was like a 10%. Because obviously of those 50, half are just like a straight up no. I mean, like in terms of we wanted a girl or someone femme or female identifying or non-binary basically.
Yeah.
So that was kind of helping us sift through. And then there was just, there were couples applying, there's like, you kind of weed it down.
You've got your non-negotiables.
Yeah. But then you've got like a whole pool of people who are like fine and like seem like nice enough people, but now it's basically like it's the part of you that gets activated during online dating, where in the beginning I think we were drunk on power, like we were so heady with this idea of like all of these applications and it's so fun. You get rid of that, and then the ones that work are like seem like fucking awesome people. Like they're just so many cool, nice, fun people out there. So then that's like the peak of it, and then you go over the cusp, you go over the top of the hill, and it's just like, oh my God, is everyone interchangeable? Does everyone, quote unquote, everyone's like, oh, I love spending time with housemates after work, but also value privacy, love a glass of vino on a Friday after work, love camping, love hiking, love the occasional part. There's just like, oh my God, are we all the same human, or is everyone interchangeable at some point?
Well, also there is, exactly like I imagine with a dating profile, there is a certain amount of self-editing that you are obviously going to do. Like if you love going out and getting shit-faced, you are not putting that on your rental application. Exactly. You know what I mean? So maybe you're like, glass of vino on a Friday is legitimately a glass of vino, or maybe it's like, I love to get hammered. Yeah, like exactly, right? Like it would be nice if we could all be like a little more honest, but also I'm not sure like how you would, if you're like, oh, if someone's got the like goal to like put that in their thing, they're going to be that times 10.
100. You're like, it's actually not even about your lifestyle choices, but it's like if you lack the social awareness to know that that's an inappropriate thing to put in an application,
right.
That's a bigger red flag.
Exactly. Or if we're thinking that like saying a couple of glasses of wine means getting hammered, then if you're saying getting hammered, it's like, well, what the fuck does that mean then? You know what I mean? Like that's terrifying.
There was one guy, but like who 100% was like, hey, I'm 35, but actually more like a 21-year-old was his opener.
Don't be proud of that, mate.
We're a hard no. We're like not even reading the rest of this. That is such a weird thing to say and be proud of. And
well, this is it. I'm like, I guess it would depend on the context in which it was said, like the rest of the paragraph or whatever. But like, am I impressed by the self-awareness of it? Or am I like, do you think this is a good, like, do you think he thought it was a good thing?
I mean, that was the opener. So yeah, I mean, I guess what we were supposed to take from that is like, I'm kind of carefree and playful. But what I got from that is like, right, if you're 35 and behave like you're 21, what the fuck were you doing in those intervening 14 years? Like, what?
Yeah. To me, that just says, I'm a mess.
Yeah. I was like, there's already one mess, housemate, sir, and I'm leaving.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Okay. So what then is the next part of the process? Like, do you just do a billion interviews? Because the other thing is, answer that question first. No.
Okay.
Sorry. I was just going to ask too many questions in the one go. That's all.
I'll get to them. So the next step, so that was 50 on the first day. By the time I'd woken up the next morning, there were another 35. So many. Okay. And this is the thing with like the dating point is like at some point you have to know that there are more than one person who's the ideal fit. And it's like holding that knowledge and being like, at some point, we've scheduled 5 interviews on Sunday already out of 50. This is not 5 of like, there were only 5 applicants and we're seeing them all. These are like 5 who every single one of those women I would fucking love to be friends with. Like they all seem awesome. The one has a dog. It's a corgi called Honeymoon.
She wins.
How cool is that?
I'm sorry. I've just solved your problem.
Dog. It's so fucking cool. They all seem so right. So it's like, at what point do you now open the next 35 applications, right? Yeah. Because 10% of those will be equally amazing. But now that means we'll have 8 interviews of potential. I mean, like maybe some of them, maybe even at 50% being an easy no, that's still 4 or 5 people who we could not we, I won't be there, but like who the girls could live with really happily.
Yeah.
At what point are you just okay with, like, how do you make that choice?
I guess that the thing is you have to make a decision and they're going to be multiple decisions. I mean, I guess the lucky thing is that you've got a pick of a bunch of people that would all be great, it sounds like, or all potentially be great, which is a good position to be in rather than settling for someone you're like, well, they don't seem like a murderer. This will be fine.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very murdery, how would you rate yourself? And that guy's like 21 years old. You're like, right.
Quite murdery.
Moderate.
Oh my! Have I ever told you about when I used to work at a market research call center?
No.
Very quick sidebar.
Love it.
It was the worst job I've ever had, and I quit very dramatically by like writing a post-it note that said I quit with a frowny face and putting it on my keyboard on my computer and then leaving and never coming back.
Iconic.
Yeah, it was.
That's amazing.
It became folklore of that call center.
I like how you put the little frowny face, like a foreshadowing of your future career.
Exactly.
You were like, visuals are very powerful communicators when paired with words.
Just thinking like, make it cute, you know, a little fun. And I went it was 11 a.m. I went directly across the road to the pub and had a beer and then went to get money out and I had nothing in my bank account and I was like, maybe I have made a terrible mistake. Anyway, I live to tell the tale. But the point being, it was, oh my God, it was so brutal. So you had to there were a bunch of different surveys that you would do. So it would depend a little bit on what the particular survey was in terms of the format. The best ones were ones that you weren't cold calling, was when you were calling someone to ask about their experience with a specific person. Those ones were okay because usually people either loved them or hated them. Either way, they were happy to talk to you, which was good. But that was almost none of them. Most of them were like cold calling businesses to do like 20-minute surveys on things like office paper. Like people don't, things that people are just not passionate.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I don't know, man. I just get whatever fucking paper is at the shops and it's fine.
Yeah.
But you had to read the scale, for every single question.
Oh my God.
I guess because that was part of their research ethic or whatever. So you'd have to have every single question. There'd be 40 questions on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is the least and 10 is the most or whatever. How would you rate your experience of blah, blah, blah? And you had to say that every time. And of course, by question 5, the person would be like, I get the scale. You don't have to read it every time. And you'd be like, I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
I have to read it every time.
And they're already doing you a favor. They're like, listen, I'm already trying to be cool, but meet me halfway here. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the most soul-destroying, horrifying job I have ever had.
Sucks.
Yeah.
This is vaguely tangential, but have we spoken about the scale of 1 to 10, but you're not allowed 7 as an option?
No.
It's such a simple thing that I heard somewhere ages ago, and it's been, honestly, it's life-changing. I mean, in a very small way, but still.
Yeah.
So it's you rate something 1 to 10, but you're not allowed using 7. And it becomes very quickly clear, because 6 and 8 mean very different. They immediately give you the information you need. How was that experience? 7 out of 10. You're like, fuck, that doesn't tell me anything.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because 6 is slightly above average.
Yeah, but probably wouldn't. 6 is very clearly it wasn't anything special.
Yeah.
8 is no, this was good.
I think 6 is almost it wants to be a 5, but you don't want to seem mean.
Yeah. Exactly.
You would say 5, but saying 6 is I'll give you a little bonus point so it doesn't seem brutal.
Yeah, on a
But
scale
8
of
is
1 to
definitely
10, but you can't use 7.
Well, I should call up TNS call center or whatever the fuck they were called and say, hey, I've got an idea for you guys.
Add it to the already incredibly long preamble. There's now a new rule.
I can't imagine a world in which they're still in business, but I mean, who knows?
I don't know. I get spam calls 3 times a day.
Yeah, true. I don't answer my phone unless I'm expecting a phone call.
Yeah.
Because of that and being scared of the phone.
That and also not wanting to.
And not wanting to. But it is good that I also now have a legit reason that if I say that to people, they're like, oh, yeah, spammers, spam calls. I totally get it. I'm like, that's what it is.
You can get those apps where it blocks calls or people upload, but the software is changing the numbers that they're calling from all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a way you could just set your phone to only receive phone calls from numbers you already have saved.
It doesn't matter to me because the sound, well, firstly, I never have my phone off silent because I'm not a psychopath who does that.
That would be crazy. Only my dad.
Yours and mine both. But it's not I'm so accustomed to that as a thing. It's just a thing my phone does a few times a day. It doesn't bother me at all. I answer my phone to people who I know or calls I'm expecting. But other than that, it's it just buzzes a few times a day and that's just part of its phone business.
I guess it's just how it works.
I don't care. Yeah. Sorry about that big tangent. Let's go back to housemates because I'm very interested in this.
I know. So, yes.
So, a few things. At some point you have to just make a decision. They have to just make a decision and be like, the other options, so we went for option A, options B, C, D, E, F, actually they just don't matter anymore because you can only choose one. There can only be one.
We were like,
so you just
maybe
have to let them go, you know what I mean?
Bunk beds in the room, just bring all of them.
I'll tell you, so I've got limited experience with this situation because while I lived in a few different share houses, they were mostly with friends, so they were mostly with people I already knew. But my 2 experiences with finding housemates were very different. So the first time I had found 2 people on whatever website existed at the time. I was probably on Gumtree or something, I guess. I don't remember. And just happened to work out perfectly. Didn't know them at all. They were both just gorgeous. The 3 of us all got along really well. It was just really good luck, I think, as much as anything else. And so then I was kind of cocky because it had worked out so well and was just so easy the first time that when Matt, one of our housemates, moved out and Ella and I were interviewing for the next one, And I remember doing having a fair few people over, but we just did them like in a chunk on a night.
Yeah.
And I think we were getting like progressively drunker as people came around. So it was like, I'll have a glass of wine with everyone who comes over. I was like 24 at the time. But yeah, I think I was almost like too free and easy with it at this point because I'd had this excellent experience that the girl who ended up moving in, like she just seemed like, yeah, she seemed lovely. She seemed fine. It seemed like a good fit. And she was an absolute fucking monster.
Oh.
Like I didn't know these people existed, like that much of a nightmare. But there was absolutely no way of telling that based on either her application or her interview.
Oh my God.
Unless I was drunker than I remember.
I love this cautionary tale that's basically, but actually that's exactly what it feels like now, because we were, like I said, when we interviewed for Phoebe, there were 4 people that came in. She was the 4th. The first 3 were like certifiably crazy. Like one of the guys, like he came in and came in and basically only spoke about the fact that he'd lost about 50 kilos and like gotten super into fitness. And the entire interview was like him telling us about all the like fitspo that he was going to bring to the house. Like we were going to go on jogs together. Like if he had known me and Tali, absolutely the wrong angle. Couldn't be a worse angle. We're like, get the fuck out. Like go. Not like what a nightmare to live with.
Wow.
I was like, no. I mean, for the right person, that would be a dream. But like neither of us wanted that. We were like, no, we want someone who we can like drink wine with and watch prison documentaries.
But I think also like whether that's your thing or not, the personality of someone who's coming into a house with people he doesn't know with such strong assumptions about what's good for them, I think that would be intolerable whether you're into fitness or not.
That's exactly it. It's like it's not everyone has their thing and they're your housemates. They're not your boyfriend or girlfriend. Yeah. Like you don't need to be into their stuff, but you need to be gauging like what is their level of social awareness and ability to read the room when they come in cold. Yeah, and like how hard and I've been on the wrong fucking end of that dynamic as well. Like when I was younger living in London, like I think about the places that I interviewed for and did not hear back from. And like I completely understand why.
Yeah.
For that exact reason.
Yeah. And actually that's the kind of like metric or, the sort of evaluation. It sounds so fucked when you're talking about a human, but you have to have some structure around it, right, to help you decide that it's actually not about like whether they like runs or not or wine or not or art or not. It's about that thing. Like, do they have that social thing, that social awareness that means that they will be an easy, kind person to live with.
Yeah. I actually thought of you reading one of them, and she's one that is on the short list because she was, obviously people will mention stuff around privacy, giving people space is a big one. And then also cleanliness comes in as well as a factor, of course. And she was like, I'm very respectful of people's space, general kind of cleanliness. And also, I can't think quite how she phrased it, but basically energy. And she acknowledged the role of like you also bring energy into the house. And I know you and I spoke about that responsibility that people have in a relationship of like you hold the room, you hold the space. Like, of course, you can go through dark times. You don't have to be on the whole time. You don't always have to be smiling and chipper, but you do kind of need to take ownership for the fact that the way you show up is going to affect the people around you.
Yes.
And it was really interesting and cool seeing someone acknowledge that. And I was like, yeah, that. I mean, you don't know till you meet the person, but I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, that is important. And yeah, that's it. It's not saying you can't have your days where you're just like, I hate everything and everyone, but just like stay in your room.
Yeah. or also just be aware that you are doing that. And you're like, yeah, you absolutely have the right to do that. But if it's been 6 months of that,
yes,
also fine.
Exactly.
But like, are you going to therapy? Are you at least doing your best to work it out? And if not, are you asking for help or support or whatever? You don't have to be perfect, but just self-aware enough to know that also, we affect each other.
That's right. So 2 questions. Do you have an evaluation system?
Oh my God. I think this is why it started feeling like so icky in that online dating way, because in the beginning it's the excitement and it's the newness, and I was like falling in love with half of these people. I was like, fuck, she sounds amazing, or like, so interesting, that's so cool. People are telling you about their jobs and their interests, and it's just so heady and exciting and fun. But then after a while, I think it's just the repetition of it and just how quickly you flip from, I'm like, oh my God, I would totally be best friends with her. And then the next one's like, no, fuck it, no, her.
Yeah.
And it just started feeling, I don't know, man. By the end of it, Tali was out. So it was me and Phoebe, and it just got weird. By the end of it, we put the phone down and we were looking at each other and we were like, I feel weird now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel good.
It's not fun anymore.
No.
Well, I think we've spoken about this before, is that it's a really specific thing it's different from like a job interview. It's like someone evaluating your personality essentially.
Yeah.
So it's really brutal to be,
Yeah. And not
to be trying to anyway.
Sorry. Yeah, but and that's the thing is like I feel like we spend so much time trying to cultivate an awareness around how dangerous it is to make snap judgments about people. And here is an exercise where you have to make, to a degree, snap judgments, because interviewing 85 people is insane.
Yeah.
Although, sidebar, I was like, we need to create some kind of Hunger Games scenario. I was like, there has to be a TV show in this. Like, there's absolutely just, because also the way that we've done it now, and I love how much potential this has for disaster, is on Sunday. I think we're up to 7 interviews on Sunday, and no more. That's it. Like, if we can't find someone, then we just need to burn the house down and go our separate ways. But it's 7. It's like on the hour. But all you need, so it means you've got to do the interview in kind of half an hour to 45 minutes and get that person out of that door, check in with each other, and there'll be a new person.
You guys are going to be so fucking tired.
We're going to be so tired. I think probably whoever is the third person we interview is just going to get it.
Cancel the rest of them. You seem fine.
Or not even that. It'll be like the first 2 will be like the warm-up act. The third, they like primed you. The third person comes in, you have a great cup of tea. And then from that point, you're so socially fatigued. I'm like, how is the 6th person? How do they stand a chance? How do people do this? What's fair? I don't know.
The only thing I can think to reference, Alice, is my deep knowledge of RuPaul's Drag Race. If we're going a sort of reality TV competition format. So usually on the season, there'll be some sort of challenge. There'll be like a roast challenge or a stand-up challenge where all of the queens have to do something, so like a 5-minute set of something in a show as their main challenge for the week. I'm getting to a point, I promise.
I love it.
So the structure of the show is that in every episode there's a mini challenge and a main challenge. And usually the winner of the mini challenge, which is usually just something silly like a game or whatever, will get some sort of prize for that, which will be like choosing the order that people go in or choosing the roles that people get in a scene and that kind of thing. So there's always a lot of pressure in those sort of challenges where say it's a stand-up challenge, right? So each of the queens has to go and do, say, 5 minutes of stand-up. And the person who has the responsibility for programming the order of things, because there's pros and cons to everything. And usually most people say, I want to go in the middle, right? Because that feels like the safest place. But you can also get lost in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're a strong start or a strong finish, it will work in your favor. But if you're not strong, that will also, like, that could be really, really bad, because then that's the last thing they remember is you fucking it up. It also depends on who goes before and after you. You know? So obviously, like, you don't know who they are, so you can't program it in such a way. But all I'm saying is so many of those things in this scenario aren't in your control. You can't control the order in which I mean, you can, but you don't know anything about them, so it's not within your power. But all of those things will affect how you feel about each of those people, and you won't be super conscious of it.
For those exact reasons, this stresses me out so much. Like, it makes me feel already just so anxious. And I also hate the idea, Like it's why I could never have like a managerial position or like just the thought of choosing a thing, knowing that 7 people, I mean, maybe, I was going to say that power of like choosing between 7 people who all want to be in the house. Maybe they come to the interview, they see the house, they're like, oh, fuck no.
Yeah. See ya.
No thanks. And then next week's episode is just me crying.
I mean, I doubt it would be to that dramatic extent because your house is lovely and your housemates are lovely. But there might also, for sure, be people who from their side are like, actually, this doesn't feel like the right fit for me. That's completely an option that's available too.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the person with the dog called Honeymoon has got a distinct advantage.
She's got my vote.
Fucking.
I'm just saying it right now for the record.
Sitting there looking at Maggie and I was like, oh God, like why did I failed you? I gave you this fucking boring ass name. Actually, it was Clayton. Did I tell that it's his mom's name? That my ex named our dog after his mom.
Dude,
it's so weird.
His mom's alive.
His mom's alive.
I don't know if that makes it better or
she's
worse.
Alive
actually.
and well. I don't think
it makes it better or worse.
If it makes it slightly better. So she's Margaret.
Yeah.
Maggie for short, but she's not known as Maggie. Like a few family members might call her Maggie, but she's known as Margaret. So like the link wasn't obvious. He didn't know he was doing it at the time.
Oh my God. Okay.
Does that make it better?
Yes, that makes it. It's so much because you said he named our dog after his mum. That is so much weirder. That is so much weirder to be like, here's this beautiful little puppy. Let's name it after mum.
Oh my God,
that's wild.
My mum's name is Angela, and I just love the thought of like a puppy called.
I love that too.
She sounds like she works in like HR. Yeah, like my dog's in middle management.
Give us some little glasses. That's wild. No, that is heaps better that he wasn't doing it intentionally.
All right. Well, still, it's not as fucking cool as Honeymoon. So
it's definitely not. No, that's true. Well, keep us updated. I'm very invested now to see how this goes. Yeah. Do you have to do 7 on the one day? That feels very intense to me.
But I think it's like the toss up between just also like wanting to rip the Band-Aid off and be like, if we can solve this on Sunday, it means we've got, like, it's that whole variable because the weird thing with moving, it's like all of the emotional stuff of like leaving friends and family and those big changes, but also for them, they need to know that like they've got the housemate sorted. She's going to be all cool and fun and...
Oh, you're getting a little jelly chills. Oh, someone's taking your place in the coven.
It's fine.
Certainly my experience with housemates has been like that is a special bond that remains if you had it, like you guys do, if you were family, you remain family.
Oh no, like I kind of, it's really more in Jess, like I think I would have expected myself to feel a little bit jealous, like that's what I would have anticipated for myself, but I don't, and I think it's just feeling so secure in those relationships, and they'll change, and I know they'll find someone amazing, and that will be a different thing. But it's like family. Like it, if anything, it means when we hang out now, it'll be more intentional instead of those kind of in between times. And
you just get all the good bits too, which is nice.
Can you tell me though, back to when you were like the second person that you interviewed, who turned out to be not a great
human
fit. Yeah. Okay. So like in what, like as in to live with, or actually just like as a person?
As a person and to live with. I don't want to go into too much detail about it actually, but she was just awful. Like she was mean, she was cruel. We found out so that her dad had been sending her money. She didn't have a job, refused to get a job, and was living off money that she was being sent from her parents, but just like using it to go out and party and not paying rent.
Whoa.
And she was my age. She was like 25. So not like 18, definitely old enough to have a fucking job and old enough to know better. She also had the same name as my other female housemate. So people thought that our landlord thought that it was her that was not paying the rent. It was awful, like, and just no remorse about any of it. We essentially got called. I've been living in this house for 3 years. Got a call from the real estate agent who for the most part, left us alone because the house was an absolute shithole. So they're like, well, that's going to be the tenants that we get in this shithole.
Like, don't poke the beehive.
Yeah, exactly. But ended up getting a call saying essentially we're within our rights to evict you immediately because the rent hasn't been paid for like months and months, and we just didn't know because they were calling and talking to the housemate with the same name, thinking they were talking to the person on the lease. Yeah, it was real fucked up. And she also just she was really mean to some of our friends and this is around the time that I met Dan too. So I moved out of that house when she was there and in with Dan. That was like the timeline on it. She just turned out to be a real fucking evil cunt. and just no self-awareness, no remorse when she'd, imagine the feeling of like your home, shithole as it was still my home of 3 years. That was so terrifying to me to get a call out of nowhere to be like, we can kick you out anytime now, and for her to be like, sorry.
Oh my God, sorry.
Yeah, it's wild to me. I mean, hopefully she's grown up a bit and learnt some lessons, but I doubt it.
I mean, that is what I think though. Like with those things, you usually try, or I kind of have to hope that humans are mostly good, and I do think that. And usually you can trace back bad choices or bad behavior to some kind of fear or whatever. But just the idea of someone's parents sending them money. And then like what a gift that is. Like what a fucking amazing gesture of like, if, not everyone's parents are in the position to do that. And people whose parents are don't necessarily, like there are a million ways that dynamic can play out. And for someone to know that they are so loved, that there are people elsewhere sending them something to keep them safe, and to take that for granted to that degree is
so interestingly, by contrast, my other housemate who was much younger, she was only 19 and she was studying full time. She was also being supported by her parents, but she couldn't have had a more opposite approach to it. Like she was so aware of how lucky she was to be able to do that. She was so grateful. She was so responsible and careful with her money. She wouldn't, if she didn't have money to go out, she wouldn't go out. Crazy. But she'd work during the holidays when she could. Like it was just the absolute complete opposite end of the scale when she's like, I know that most people don't get to do this. I'm so lucky that my parents are in a position where they can support me and pay my rent, give me a little bit of living money while I'm studying full time, that I'm going to do everything I can in the meantime to do my best with my study, to work where I can, and just generally be a kind, grateful human being in the world. Yeah. So having the direct contrast between the two of them in the same house
with the same name.
With the same name was wild. Yeah.
Oh my God. So this has just reminded me of something that I had completely forgotten, but this blew my mind. Was maybe 3 years ago. One of my cousins was getting married. So she's based in the UK, and she was getting married in South Africa. And because of basically just like booking the venue and organizing the logistics of it, it was way easier coming from within South Africa. So she was working with her best friend who was still based, I think, in Cape Town. Like I'm going to mess up some of the details, but the gist of it was basically she and her friend, I think, was just out of work. So this was like her maid of honor. So she would transfer money to the maid of honor, who would then pay for the wedding related stuff. So it was just easier. And she was kind of the maid of honors, like speaking to the venue, speaking to the wedding planner, speaking to the caterers, and blah, 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 blah. So they organize this whole thing. It's like a wine farm wedding. So it's big money. And, the cousin arrives. They had this beautiful day. And I can't remember. I wish I could remember how it happened, but it was the day after the wedding. And I think the maid of honor had left her phone or her laptop or something. But basically the bride realized that each time the maid of honor had been sending her a quote, she'd been photoshopping the numbers on it. Yeah. And like thousands of rands, thousands and thousands of rands she'd stolen from her best friend. And it was Like she discovered this the day after her wedding, the day after she's been sitting next to this person on this like massive fucking day of her life. Like the degree of betrayal is so heartbreaking. Like it was so fucking heartbreaking for her. You're like, how do you look at someone in the eyes, like someone that you love so much? And there were reasons, I mean, I can't remember what they are now. And, you know, again, it was, she had gone through some stuff. There was stuff, but it was also just like, fuck you. At some point, you were fleecing your best friend. Like if you needed that help, ask for that help. But like there's a moment that you're photoshopping numbers on an invoice to send to this person. Like you have those fucked.
That does make it particularly fucked, doesn't it? Like thinking of that, like that's something that takes like time and precision and like matching fonts. And,
yes, exactly.
Like that's not something that is like I'll just like put an extra zero on this keyboard and send it off.
Yeah.
And,
I got one quote and it came in less and I didn't correct it and I know I did the wrong thing. I did the wrong thing, but like fuck, it kind of, you know, like it wasn't one mistake that snowballed. It was like a strategy.
So I can't imagine. It does make me feel better about myself. Because you think of like, oh man, like the things that we beat ourselves up about and think, oh, like I could have done that better, or was this the right move for this? Blah blah blah. And you're like, oh, there are people out there fucking fleecing their best friends on their wedding day. Yeah. Maybe I'm fine.
Yeah, that is literally. It's like you can't even. That's the stuff you couldn't even put in like a book or a movie because it would sound made up. It's like not only are you fucking stealing from someone, you're stealing from your best friend. Not only are you stealing from your best friend, you're doing it on her wedding day.
Yeah.
Like no.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's horrifying.
Just on that happy note. But
anyway, I'm sure you won't have a horrible. I honestly like that situation was so terrible with that housemate that like I don't think there are many of her that exist in the world. Like it's so unlikely that something like that would happen.
And again, like I think that exactly like everyone's got their stuff when you live with them. Not everyone's great at doing the dishes, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. But like living with an actual sociopath is your chances are low.
They are very low. And also I feel like like when I was saying before, like there was just absolutely no way of knowing. There is just absolutely no way of knowing. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. There's no point in worrying about it.
Exactly. There's nothing you could do to mitigate that damage. No. So like you just have to roll the dice. Yeah. But it's weird. It's like dating, except instead of the stakes being like, how did this meeting go? Should we meet again? It's like, how did this meeting go? Do you want to live with me?
Do you want to move into my house?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Like it took me a year to decide that with Tom, who I know. Now we're going to decide that with someone we've met for like half an hour.
It'll be fine. People do it all the time and most people don't get murdered. So, have you? Oh, it's probably not the time to start watching it. What's that that documentary series, like the world's worst housemate, or what's it called?
I saw it on Netflix.
Yeah, don't watch it now. Watch it once the whole process is over.
Cool.
Yeah. But it's a good bit of trashy true crime. I enjoyed it. Some of it's real fucked though. Some of it's like the good kind of fucked and some of it's like, oh, that's proper awful.
Yeah, I'm not a big true crime fan at all. I just don't, I don't get it. But
I quite enjoy it when I don't seek it out, but if I happen across it, I always quite enjoy it.
If I happen across a crime.
Yeah. And it's true.
You just step over the body and you're like, oh, didn't mind it.
Yeah, that was all right.
Not what I ordered, but fine.
I'll take it. Hey, before we wrap up, I wanted to chat to you about something I thought was really interesting on our Instagram stories this week coming out. So every Thursday we do like an interactive story of some description where we ask a question. And that morning I'd been at a graphic recording gig. The client were absolutely perfectly lovely. I'm not trying to hang shit on them in any shape or form. But it was just a funny thing that happens relatively often when something, I'm sure it's meant as a compliment, but it's like, no, like the feelings in your heart are coming out in your voice. Someone said to me like, oh, you look very creative, don't you? And I'm like, it does feel like a bit of a fucking burn, And And these, again, like lovely people, but like very, I would say sort of like proper middle class, quite, wealthy.
Like conventional,
very
down the
conventional, lots of like beige and scarves and things. And again, lovely. But it got me thinking about that thing and like what's intended as a compliment. Like I certainly don't think she intended it as an insult, but just the way that it came out was like I can feel your kind of slight discomfort with this.
Yeah, it sounds very school teachery.
It was that was exactly it. So she wasn't like, ew, this is gross, I don't like this, but it was something like, this is a little, and I was not wearing anything crazy by the way. I think it was mainly my glasses, right? I think I was just wearing black other than that. And purple lipstick, I guess. But
I mean, I was just wearing these bright pink geometric leopard print glasses and also purple lipstick, but I don't know where she got that from.
But what I'm saying is I wasn't wearing like tutu and a bra.
Yeah. You weren't at full capacity.
Like I do on a Saturday night. But yeah, so then on the stories, I sort of posed I told that little story and posed the question, like, what sort of backhanded compliments have you received? And what I found so fascinating about it is that most of them, when I looked at them, I'm like, oh, but that is a compliment. Like someone saying to you, oh, like that dress is really flattering, or you're so bubbly. So what I find really interesting about that is there is something that is happening in these people's own brains. Like with me, like I would imagine me saying that to someone else, like, oh, you look very creative. They're like, well, that's a good thing, right? Like why are you kind of a little insulted or uncomfortable about that? It's because it's revealing something about me, my past, my thought patterns, potentially my imposter syndrome about being a creative working in a more corporate space, right? That I'm interpreting that as a little like low-key read when it was not intended that. It was very obviously not intended that way. And then reading other people's versions of that and some of them were like, oh yeah, that's a very much a backhanded compliment. But most of them I'm like, oh, but either like I know the person, I'm like, that's true. Like beautiful Dr. Marion Piper being like, oh, you're always so bubbly. I'm like, well,
yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, but that's good, isn't it? But maybe there's something, and she's like, oh, but I don't know. We'll ask Marion about it at the summit, but maybe it's something around like, oh, well, actually, I work really hard to bring this energy, or whatever the thing is, or the flattering clothes thing. Maybe you're reading that as like, well, are you saying that I've got something that needs to be covered up?
Yeah, I would probably, hearing that one, I think if someone said that to me, like flattering, I would put through the filter of like, it's covering up something or hiding something or making something appear better than it really is.
Yeah.
Otherwise it wouldn't be flattering. It would just be like, you look good.
But wouldn't it depend so much on who was saying it to you, in what context?
I know. And you're right, because actually I'm only saying that because that would clearly be triggering my own filter around that. Like, I don't think that the person meant it that way, but it just depends on what insecurities you're carrying around to start off with.
Because I think, and I can understand that completely from a intellectual, logical point of view, but I think like my gut reaction to that is fine. I'd be like, oh, this is flattering? Great, it's flattering. Yeah. That's nice. But it's just, whatever baggage you've got, or like another one was based on like the work that she'd done. This is someone who's also a graphic recorder, so doing live illustration during a workshop, that said that she had a unique perspective. And I was like, well, that sounds like a good thing. But maybe it could, I mean, obviously I didn't hear it. There could have been something about the tone, but maybe she was also just like feeling a little like unsure about it. So when they said that, maybe it was meant as a compliment, but you were like, what are you saying?
I can totally, if the right person says that, then it makes you feel like what they're saying is your perspective is different and unusual and insightful and very special and amazing. But if the wrong person says it, it's like, oh, no, you've got it wrong. Like, because we unanimously agree that this is the case. You've done something completely different. Unique is our way of saying wrong.
Yes, exactly. But then also it could be the first thing that is with good intentions, but your side of it is interpreting it
exactly.
Wrong. So, I don't know. I just found it fascinating. The other one was, again, another graphic recorder. and them saying a client, participant was like, "Oh, this is great. Oh, I'm gonna take a photo to show my kids." Now that's something that I get a lot as well, and it's because I was like, "Oh, classic." And he's like, "Yeah, it's like it's so interesting because it is like that is a sweet and kind thing. Like they were excited by it, but you can't help but feel like it's a little condescending."
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're like, this is the level of your work is best appreciated by children.
Yeah. But also I think like, you know, in conversations that I've had with like similar kind of conversations with people before, often it's actually more like, I'm going to show my kid who's into art that it's possible to have a career in art that's not just like being a starving artist.
And it's 100%, I've had that one many times as well. And weirdly, I love that because I'm like, firstly, kids are way more interesting than adults usually. So I'm like, fine, if that's my demographic, like totally happy with that. But also because it is exactly the kind of statement. I'm like, I can hear these words coming out of my well-intentioned mum or dad at a corporate event when I was a kid. Like I can completely hear that and where it would have come from.
I actually think that exactly that did happen with my dad. This was the first I remember hearing of graphic recording long before I'd seen it in real life. Was Dad had gone, he used to work for an American company, and he'd gone to a conference in the States and they had someone there doing that. And I think he took photos. He certainly told me about it and he'd obviously spoken to them about it. So he 100% would have been that dude. I think maybe I was either in maybe not high school, maybe just out of high school. So like late teens, early 20s probably. Maybe I could even have been in late high school. Anyway, doesn't fucking matter, Jessamy. But yeah, so he definitely would have been that person like, oh, my daughter loves art. What is this? Oh, isn't that just, I'll take a photo and I'll show it to
so
him.
Creative.
So creative. Yeah, anyway, I just thought that it really sparked a lot of interesting thinking for me yesterday, looking through all of these responses and just feeling like so much is dependent on like the giver, the deliverer of the compliment / insult and the receiver. And sometimes those things will match up in a good way and sometimes they'll be really unbalanced. It's just there's so much scope for misunderstanding in the world and then like what is even true.
Exactly.
Who knows?
And it just first two things. Firstly, to say thank you for linking our podcast back to imposter syndrome there. I'm like,
occasionally it happens.
It is tenuous at best. And I love what you did there. So thank you. But yeah, like it goes back to that thing that we've spoken about before, which is if you are trying to communicate with other people flawlessly, like you will drive yourself fucking crazy exactly for this reason, because there will always be a filter that has to do with the way you deliver something with the best of intentions could be hitting a trigger that causes a domino cascade in their head because once upon a time a teacher made a jibe about something and like your comment around someone being creative, which for that person might be the height of a compliment, for someone who is maybe never been able to live into that version of their personality and aspires to that so much and admires it in people who are able to be more out there with their personality. They are delivering this gem of like, my God, I wish one day someone would say this about me.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's like a thing that I'm not saying you were bullied for it, but like for someone who, as an example, was bullied for exactly that exact statement is just it's gonna land differently and it's no one's fault.
Yeah. And we kind of touched on this a little bit a few episodes ago in the spilling the tea episode, and it's also something I was speaking to a friend about the other day, that in any sort of situation or conversation, there's like three players or perspectives. There's your experience, my experience, and the truth. And there'll be overlapping parts of all of those, but he was talking in the context of like trying to work something out with his partner and being like, okay, the best thing we can do as a starting point is just like work out like what is true, like what is objectively true in this situation. Then you can both have your feelings and perspectives about the stuff that sits outside of that, because you can't help that, right? We're human beings. You're going to put your own layers of stories and meaning and stuff. But at least if you can both agree on what is objectively true about a particular situation, that's a really good starting point to then, build useful conversations from.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. This is one I had this week. I went to the hairdresser and then I arrived at my studio, and the girl that sits opposite me, who's so lovely, she's like, "Oh, have you just got your hair done?" And I was like, "Yes." And then there was kind of that moment. She's like, "Wow, it's so long." And I was like, you know what? We've all done it. I was like, I've done that. Like, it's that weird game. I'm like, yep. I've been the person that's like, wow, is this your artwork? Like, I love the frame.
Yeah,
like,
it's
like,
so square.
It's definitely there. It's just like, all right. Like, there was just that moment where I was like, I can kind of choose between going down the bruised ego path, or I could just like roll with this and be like, yeah, okay, game recognizes game. We've all done this. That's fine. You don't need to have an opinion on this.
I don't know if I told you this. This was I remember one at the gym the other day with my one of my beautiful new friends. But we were just talking about age, because we'd just met, comparing ages or whatever. And he's like, "How old are you again?" And I said 37. It was relevant to like the conversation. And he said, "Oh, but you look great for 37.
Oh.
And the woman next to me audibly gasped. She went, and I was like, "Mate, I'm going to choose to take that as a compliment." He did mean it as a compliment.
Yeah, of course he did.
I know that sounds like I'm clutching at straws, but it was with good intent. Also, like, gay man, not quite on the like that level of things in terms of what's going to be the right thing to say in that situation. But yeah, that was a great one. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let this go, and I'm going to choose to take it as a compliment. And he's like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" Like, yeah, of course it was a compliment. I'm like, okay, don't say the foot 37 part. Next time.
But it is exactly
FYI.
like, it's that crossroads thing of like, you get to choose your response in that moment, because like sometimes you can't read the person's intention, and that's a different thing. But there's a subclass of these moments that happen where it's like, you fucking know what the person meant.
Yes,
and like,
that's right.
You can unpick it and repick it. And like, if you want to get worked up, there's material, right? Like you want it to bum you out. You want to like get like righteously indignant about it. There's that is available to you at any time, but that just sucks. Like, it sucks for everyone.
Yeah. Just like having the thought that so like in both of those examples, like it's just kind of funny, right? Like it's not, even if you chose to be offended by it, it's not awful. Like it's a funny situation. But choosing to react well or react lightly in those small examples is like practice for when it happens in a way that's bigger and heavier. Yeah. So it's like doing your reps.
Yeah, that's exactly, you do, before you need to call it in. I know that we have to go. Can I just tell you one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just have so many minor and unimportant things that feel very urgent to tell you. So I've been packing up my room and house to move in with Tom, and I found this book that my ex gave me. Just like, I was like, what is this? And I took it out the bookshelf, and it's called The Courage to Be Disliked. And I just had this amazing.
Hang on. This was a gift?
It was gifted to me by my ex. And I just looked at it. I've never fucking read this thing. And I like, clearly, there is information there. There is feedback. Here is a person who knows me incredibly well. So for me to just discount that is a waste of information. And obviously, I do know that I have that very strong people-pleasing streak. People matter a lot to me. How other people feel with me, around me, about me, like it does matter to me.
Yeah.
And in his opinion, that was too much, and that's fine. And sometimes it is, but also sometimes that is just who I am. And I like people. I give a shit.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. And it was just this moment of like, firstly, I was laughing so much at this, like, the like passive aggressive self-help book gifting move, which is so fucking, I was like, cool, well, thanks. And then also I was like, oh, it's a nice moment. And as you know, my ex and I are on great terms, but it was so good. I like picked up this book that I've never fucking opened and put it straight in the fucking upshot pile. And I was like, you know what, mate? I have the courage to not read this fucking book.
Yes. I feel like that's an amazing place to leave it on. But I just have one follow-up question.
Yeah.
Do you remember for what occasion the gift was for?
No, I've got nothing.
Okay. Shouldn't have asked the question.
It was a great question. It was a great question.
Like, was that for your birthday? Because that'd be fucked.
Just like follow it up and like, here's the courage to be disliked. Also, I dislike you. I hope you're ready for that.
Just preparing you for the inevitable. Yeah. Happy birthday, honey.
Just the thing. Nah, it was, I would have remembered if it was an occasion. Like it wasn't a birthday or Christmas present. It was just like but it was like, I do remember it being, speaking of the double-handed compliment, the backhanded compliment, it's like, oh my God, hey, I saw this thing at the bookshop and thought of you, which is truly one of the best sentences anyone can ever say to me. Like, buying me a book is the best thing you can do, and then pulling it out of his bag and it's that.
Oh dear. What a move. What a move.
Anyway.
All right. That's it. I love you, Alice Edie.
I love you, Jess.
Thanks for hanging and just so excited about all of these real fun, exciting things. Remember to, go. The easiest way is to follow us on socials or sign up to our newsletter to be reminded of all of the cool things that we're doing. And we love you and speak to you real soon.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Imposter Syndrome Club. Please follow us wherever you find your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra kind, rate and review. Or if you got any insights or value from this, share with a friend.
You can also find us on Instagram at imposterpod or online at impostersyndromeclub.com.